recently polled my community about where they struggled most when it comes to productivity and to-do lists as entrepreneurs and moms with ADHD. And 85% of those surveyed said deciding what to work on first. And I totally get it. For one, us ADHDers are drawn to tasks or projects that pique our interests, things that we find exciting or that we actually want to do. And let's face it, many of the tasks that are on our to-do list may not exactly fall into the interesting or exciting category. Then there's the fact that deciding what to work on is using our executive function. So if your dopamine and frontal lobe aren't warmed up and firing on all cylinders, it stands to reason why you might find the act of deciding what to do an exhaustive chore. That's why on today's episode of the ADHD Mompreneur, we are going to discuss my trim your to-do list method to help you prioritize your to-do list and know what to work on first. But before we dive into my trim method, I'd love to introduce myself just in case you're new here. I'm Christy Lingo, the ADHD Mompreneur. I started my accountability coaching program for ADHD mom business owners to fill a gap that I experienced in the business coaching industry. I worked with amazing business coaches that didn't quite understand my challenges as a mother trying to run a business. I worked with some amazing business coaches who didn't necessarily understand my ADHD and need for constant accountability or motivation or staying away from every single shiny object that crossed my path. And so I created the program that I was looking for. Regular calls to discuss what you should be working on and when you're going to work on it, along with follow-up reminders to make sure that you're staying on track. To learn more about my coaching programs and how they might be able to help you achieve the success you know is possible as an ADHD mom business owner, visit theadhdmompreneur.com. So deciding what to work on first is prioritization. And prioritization is an executive function, so it stands to reason why many of us ADHDers might struggle with it a bit. But why specifically is it that we struggle to prioritize what is on our to-do list? There's a chance it's related to the decision-making process, like we discussed in the intro. If your brain is tired or not quite up to speed yet, it is going to be much more difficult for someone with ADHD to make a decision between two different tasks or projects and determine which is more important or urgent at that point. It could also be that we haven't established a clear why for why we want to complete this task or project, meaning there's not a really great emotional pull for us to want to complete it. Or it could be that so much of the productivity prioritization advice that's out there doesn't give us ADHDers enough information to help us determine if something is important, urgent, or not important. If you're familiar with this terminology, there's a good chance that you have crossed paths with what is known as the Eisenhower time matrix. You assign your task or project a slot on the grid by determining if that task or project is urgent and important, not urgent and important, urgent but not important, and not urgent and not important. And I have no problem with the time matrix in and of itself as a productivity tool. I actually think it can be very helpful if you have the capability of scaling importance or determining urgency. Unfortunately, many of us with ADHD struggle with determining importance because we feel the need to be inspired or emotionally motivated. Or we struggle with urgency because of our issues with time blindness and time management. And then we typically wait around until all tasks are urgent. That's why I created a little bit different method for my clients to help them determine what they need to work on first and what can wait. I wanted to create a slightly different method because, as with many productivity strategies created by and for neurotypicals, they don't take into account things like an ADHDer's struggle with time blindness, or decision making, or inspiration. So I tweaked this traditional prioritizing practice with a few questions to help you narrow down what must be done and what can be done a little later. I call it my trim your to-do list method. TRIM is an acronym that stands for time sensitive, required, impactful, and money related. I'll dive into the specifics of each category in just a second, but before I do, I wanted to let you know that I have created a trim your to-do list flowchart with some of the questions we're going to discuss today to help you determine your priorities. You can grab your free downloadable trim your to-do list flowchart printable by visiting bit.ly/trimyourtodos or by going to the link that's in the show description. And with that, let's dive into how you can trim your to-do list to know what to work on first. T is for time sensitive. Ask yourself, does this task have a deadline or a due date? Is that deadline or due date approaching, or has it recently passed? For example, let's say you're going to do a podcast interview next week and the host has asked you to send in a bio and headshot 1 week before the interview. Because there is a due date for submitting these materials, that makes the task time sensitive and therefore a priority, meaning you need to do it first. The R is for required. In other words, this is something that you need to do or else there might be a consequence. I often refer to this as being a roadblock because you are holding up your progress or potentially the progress of somebody else by not completing this task. Examples of required tasks may be something like logging in to watch a video so you can complete a component of a class that you're taking, or signing a paper so your child can go on the field trip next week at school. Maybe you have been holding off on sending your social media guru your content ideas for the next quarter. Think, what will happen if I don't do this task? If it makes you a roadblock or inaction may have a consequence, then the task is required and it is a priority. I stands for impactful. Will completion of this task or project impact your business or home life positively? Will not completing this task or project impact your business or home life negatively? From a business standpoint, this might look like knowing exactly where you need to put your energy and time in marketing your business because it's where you see the best ROI. For instance, if you get lots of clients from social media, you need to make sure you're spending your time and energy on creating social media content because that will make an impact on your community. On the flip side, if social media is not where you get your clients, but you see better results from something like networking or email campaigns, you need to make sure you're focusing time on that because that's where the greatest impact will be made. In your home and personal life, impactful tasks might look like scheduling a doctor's appointment or doing the dishes or exercising. If completing a task impacts your life positively or not completing a task impacts your life negatively, then it is a priority. And finally, M is for money related. Will doing this task help you make money? Think returning an email or a phone call from a potential client, or finishing up an online product you've been creating, or uploading products to sell in your online store. You can also ask yourself, will not doing this task cost me money? Something like paying your bills late or not paying your bills at all. Or maybe you forgot to invoice a client, therefore you don't have income coming in. Or maybe you forgot to drop off that Amazon return and therefore you're not going to get the money back. Think of how completing or not completing this task or project may positively or negatively impact the bottom line of you and your family. Today's action step is to trim your to-do list by using this method to determine which tasks you need to focus on first and which can be pushed off till a little later. If a task is time sensitive, required, impactful, or money related, it needs to be done first. Doing a regular review of your to-do list with my trim method will help you determine what needs to be done first and keep you on track in your home and business tasks. And don't forget that you can pick up a free downloadable Trim Your To-Do List flowchart by visiting bit.ly/trimyourtodos or following the link in the show description. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like button and follow and subscribe to the ADHD Mompreneur if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes like next week, where we will be discussing how to start and maintain a home organization project as an ADHD mom. Until next time, keep letting your ADHD journey be part of your success story. If you're a business-owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time,